Welcome, everyone. We're so excited for today's session. Many of you know already that Web3, NFT, and crypto is changing and already has changed so much of our lives. And we're so excited to dive in with expert Jessica Greenwalt to dive deeper into those questions. You've submitted some questions. We'll tackle them. We'll also get into the nitty-gritty, how Jessica herself ended up in the space and what her journey has been like, and we'll also address any questions you have. So at any point, please drop your questions in the chat and we will address them. I'll also briefly talk about Jessica's background. She's done so many things, some things that aren't even listed, but she went through YC, she has worked with Apple, she's done so many things. But related to this talk, Jessica Greenwalt is a founder, UX researcher, multiple award-winning graphic designer, product designer, NFT strategist, and digital artist. For 2 decades, she's worked on stealth projects for organizations around the world, including LinkedIn, Telefonica, the United Nations, Marvel Comics, and many more. Jessica is a crypto director for VaynerNFT, where she develops NFT strategies for the world's biggest brands. She's the creative VP of PhishFort, the biggest cybersecurity company in the crypto space, where she conducts user research and designs open source tools to keep crypto users safe. She's also the founder of Pixel Keyed, a research and design firm that helps crypto companies design, build, and launch products that change the world. Jessica is one of the Inc. magazine's 10 women to watch. In tech hosts 50 women in tech dominating Silicon Valley, Huffington Post 6 women rocking tech for good, and today's leading women power 50. She's also officially the queen of NFTs. We're so honored to have you, and I'm so grateful for you spending the time sharing your journey with us. With that, we'd love to hear how you ended up in crypto. It's always so easy from the outside to see someone's journey, but like you started at some point as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about your beginnings?
Yeah, and it was very intentional. It's one of those things where I put it out in the universe, as funny as that is to say. At the end of 2020, I decided I wasn't going to work with any companies or brands that were not in crypto or very clearly getting into crypto. Like they had a plan to do it. And I made that commitment and I put it out there to friends and said, hey, I want to work in the crypto space. I don't just want to invest in it. I don't just want to be an outsider on the sidelines. I'm not convinced that the people in the industry will think about the needs of someone like me while they're developing their technology, the technology that's going to change the world and impact all industries, right? So as a UX researcher, also having to experience how bad the user experience is with a lot of crypto products, I was like, I got to get in on this and figure out how to, one, have these products take into consideration my needs as a woman, as a minority, and then also just have a better user experience for everyone. So it's not just people who've been working in the space for so long, who know exactly everything that's happening, so they have more context. Like have someone come in from the outside and help build these products for a broader audience. So I told my friends, I'm looking for a job in the crypto space. I want to go work with a crypto company, and I want it to be with the right people that I can learn from, so that I am getting a strong enough background that I want to learn from the best, basically. And one of my friends said that there's this cybersecurity company that happened to be hiring a UX person. And I reached out to them and got the referral, and they said, look, we really love your background. You look great. We don't think we can afford you because you're in the States and a variety of reasons. And I wrote back and I told them, I was like, look, you pay me whatever you can afford to pay me, but you teach me everything you know. And so we struck a deal, and the CEO of PhishFort, he spent like hours on end each week just sitting me down and walking me through a variety of different DeFi platforms, different crypto networks. Any questions I had, we'd just set aside time, and he very generously would very patiently walk me through the whole experience end to end, from moving crypto to different DeFi platforms, and then staking it, unstaking it, you name it, like anything I had to try to figure out. And it's not easy. So that's why I thought it was really helpful to be in that position where I could learn from someone firsthand and then spread that knowledge throughout Dreamers, Doers, and then eventually to a broader audience of more women and artists who are trying to get into the space, who could benefit from this technology, but don't necessarily have the benefit of having the CEO of a cybersecurity company sit down with them and walk them through the process of how to do this and how to do this safely. So I learned from him, and then we got roped into building a NFT marketplace for the world's largest crypto exchange. And then things just kind of blew up from there. As you've seen in the news the last year and a half, NFTs have taken over the world. They're in everything. Like everything is also becoming an NFT, right? So it was a matter of being at the right place at the right time and being in a organization that could help these other larger crypto organizations that were getting into the NFT space, and then becoming that person. So after having had the opportunity of working on a NFT marketplace, so knowing what it's like to actually build that platform, and then having minted an NFT PFP project myself. That's PFP stands for profile picture. So you'll see a lot of these NFT drops. They'll have like 10,000 individual, completely unique images that are generated based off of a series of traits that an artist drew, and they get randomly assembled, and each one is guaranteed to be unique if that's how you wanted to set it up. And people are dropping these projects, and a lot of people are buying in. And as a holder of one of these unique images, you can put that as your profile picture on Twitter. They usually also act as access passes for a variety of experiences. So having had the experience of getting to do one of those as well, through this, and this is like something that would happen in the Web3 world, through a series of anonymous people. Like I don't actually know the human identity of two of these people that I was talking to online, but one anonymous person connected me with another anonymous person, and I got on a web call with this other anonymous person. And it was actually like something out of a horror movie, where you see how we're here on this video call and we could see our faces. Instead of seeing a human face, it was an AR layered digital face that had a mouth that would move while the person talked. And initially I was like, this is some horror movie shit right here. This is like right out of Saw. And I told the guy, I was like, what is this? Do you do this on all your business calls? And he was like, yeah, I'm anonymous. Like for him, it was totally normal. For me, I'm like, I've never seen this before. It kind of freaking me out. But we got along, talked. And then the next thing I knew, the president of VaynerNFT called me up and said like, hey, we'd love for you to join our team. And I met them, and I've been working with them as their creative director and been loving it since. But that's my journey of how I got to where I am right now.
That's so fascinating. And we'll dive a little bit in the nitty gritty of like what are NFTs, Web3, crypto, and all of that. But before we start out with that, like really trying to understand like why this matters so much. Like, so starting out with you, like you dropped essentially everything in your life to go into this space. Like, what was it that you're like, wow, I need to be and invest my entire life, like work for like way lower salary than I usually would, to learn everything about the space? What sparked that at that time?
Well, to be fair, I asked to be paid what little I got paid in crypto, and that the USD equivalent at the time was low, but crypto has gone up last year, has performed pretty well. But yes, I was taking a dramatic pay cut. I actually, as far as the banks are concerned, I basically made no money last year because a lot of banks don't consider crypto money. They don't accept it or count it towards your income. So yeah, I went from like making a normal executive level salary to making kind of $0 on paper and not cashing out any of the crypto. Why did I do that? Because this is changing the world. You already got to see a little bit of it early on, but now it's become more obvious that crypto and NFTs are transforming every single industry, everything you interact with, and they're just going to continue to do that, right? Like high level, and I know a lot of you here jump in on the Dreamers Doers private crypto sessions, so you kind of have this general knowledge, but for the folks in here who haven't had the pleasure of being part of our groups, high level, the thing that excites a lot of people about blockchain technology and cryptocurrency is that it is a financial system that does not involve any middleman. So governments, like banks, the people who are usually there sitting in the middle controlling the movement of money, they're not there. So people who may not be able to get access to capital for a variety of reasons. Like, let's say you live in a place where women aren't allowed to own property, which is kind of like a big reason why I got really excited about crypto in the first place, is it lets them have ownership over their own property without dealing with the government's involvement, because the government doesn't control the blockchain technology. They don't control the cryptocurrency, right? Like anyone theoretically could get access to that. They could own, you become your own bank is the promise of cryptocurrency. So you remove that bank. You don't have to get their permission. You don't have to check in with them if you want to wire like $1 million or whatever you want to do, right? You just do it. That comes with a lot of, there are some things that you need to be very conscious of when you are your own bank. You are now your own security system. You are your own record keeping service. You have to do everything on your own, but it also gives you more power and control over your own finances. So like imagine a world where assets can be frozen, which they can right now. So let's say you did something, a higher power didn't like it, and they could just freeze your assets, refuse to let you take your money out of your bank. It becomes unusable to you. That very hard to do in the crypto space. You still have control. You get to retain control over your own money. And the other thing is, it also, by removing this like third party that usually is the gatekeeper for sending money to and from people, it lets you loan money directly to other people instead of like normally you deposit your money into a bank and then the bank lends out that money and then they make money off of loaning your money, right? So imagine if the bank's not there and you just loan the money directly, then you would be earning the revenue off of having loaned out that money directly. So instead of like a bank skimming up off most of that, you get all of that, right? So it opens up the possibility for a lot of things, a lot of freedom, and the way that blockchain technology is allowing people to do this, to have more power, like putting power back in the hands of the people, is that it's decentralized. So no one organization, no one location, there's no one person in power. It is controlled and maintained by everyone who's part of that network. So you can't like take someone out, you can't bribe them. It's everywhere. You would have to do something that's essentially impossible to try to take control over an entire network. That's why people got excited about it initially. The reason, and that's that promise of power back to the people is very exciting, and why I got interested in it as well. But what excites me now is seeing how NFTs have completely changed the game for not just artists. Like I grew up in a world where people told me, don't become an artist, you're going to starve, right? And I'm sure this is a common message that a lot of people are familiar with, where at a young age, you're kind of trained not to go into the arts because that's not a viable career. A lot of the artists that I know personally who've gotten into NFTs last year, who grew up in that environment, who were starving artists, are now millionaires. And now you're seeing parents actually encourage their kids to draw. And I get calls all the time from people, like when people text me all day, like, hey, my kid drew this image. What do you think? Can we make NFTs out of it? I'm like, look at this. This has completely changed everything from the way that I grew up and the way I was raised. Now people are actually encouraging their kids to nurture their art skills, which I'm sure would excite Nina, who I see is on the call here, who's in the art world, and we collaborate on a bunch of stuff. But yeah, like it's totally turned this world on its head. And the traditional art world initially was like, no, we're not touching NFTs, screw that. When Nina and I were talking to galleries and museums early on, like 2 years ago, and saying like, hey, we can help you get in the NFT space, they're like, oh, no, that's garbage. And now, 6 months after that, they're like, please help us get into the NFT space. And I'm like, well, yeah, now I'm kind of like booked. I can't do anything about that. You're gonna have to figure this out. It's like people are starting to realize that because NFTs put power back in the hands of the artists, so that you as the creator own the commercial rights of what you've produced and can earn royalties off of that in perpetuity, that even people like major stars like Reese Witherspoon, she was just in an interview talking about how she doesn't own the characters that she played in her previous movies. And so she can't even reference them, even though they're so tightly tied to her identity. With NFTs, you, the creator, own the IP. You can personally license out that IP to other people. You can earn royalties on that forever. And it doesn't have to go through this central authority like it has done historically. It's going to change the game for music, for any creator, for visual arts, music, you name it. And we're starting to see this with And sorry, I know, Geshe, like you have other questions.
I was just going to say, because I think for those that maybe are just getting started, so we obviously talked about crypto as a currency. So now suddenly we're talking about art. How does crypto suddenly, what used to be mainly known and used as a currency, now fit in with that? Can you just briefly bridge that gap?
How does crypto fit in?
Or how do we get from like currency? Like how does the crypto technology make like what are NFTs essentially? Obviously not the whole explanation, and how is it powered through the blockchain, and how why is this so crucial?
No, that's totally fair. So we talked about how blockchain technology, it's a distributed network that nobody has control over, right? The other important thing to know about that is it's completely public. So everyone can see what each person is doing on that network. So you have a very public record with extreme transparency. You can see how much money anyone's holding at any one particular time, what they're buying, what's currently being held by them, art assets, digital assets. And then you have these things that you can put on the blockchain to get that visibility and get that public record from them. And that's NFTs. They're just a certificate of authenticity that you can tie to anything you want. I like to equate them to that little holographic certificate of authenticity. If you've ever bought any sports memorabilia, like an autographed baseball or whatever, you get this nice little piece of paper that says, "We promise this is an authentic, signed, whatever." That digitized, put on the blockchain is an NFT. That little certificate that just promises that something is real and authentic. The reason it makes it more real and authentic when it's put on the blockchain is that now you have a very public record of where that was generated and every hand that certificate has passed through. So if that certificate points to a specific digital piece of art, for one, it lets that specific digital copy of an image be an official, authentic one, unlike all the other copies of it that are online. And you, by holding that NFT, you are publicly showing that you hold that NFT, and anyone you sell it to after you will have the record of you having owned it and them having owned it. And if they sell it to anyone else, there's like a totally clear chain without any question there. Whereas with real, physical objects, you could say like, oh, I bought that peacock in India and from like a prominent artist, and then someone else, like I can sell it and then they can make up whatever story they wanted, right? Like there's no official record of that. It's just you taking me at my word and me taking the previous person at their word, whatever, right? That the transparency that NFTs gives you does not allow you to just make up whatever bullshit you want about the products you've bought or about the art that you own, right? So that's how blockchain ties into NFTs. NFTs are the certificate that sits on this decentralized network that is not owned by anyone. So it's really, really hard to change the record. And once it's there, it's essentially permanent and public for anyone to see and to check the record on. So using that, which most people are using for art right now, to prove the authenticity of digital art and then track how many hands it passed through or what hands it passed through. That's the most common use case. But NFTs, they can be used for so much more than that. And we've just started scratching the surface of what we can do with NFTs.
Actually, I think this is because when I started looking into the space, which was only a few months ago, like just having like real life tangible examples. To give an example, like there's lots of like now club, like Dreamers and Doers, for example, is a members only club, but there's like now real life members only clubs actually started by Gary Vaynerchuk in New York, right, where you can buy an NFT and then get a membership, and now you can actually purchase it, I think, for double the price it was originally sold for. But you can probably elaborate more on that. But like, what are some like real life examples that we've already starting to see and probably are just scratching the surface of?
So that's a great example. Gary V's Fly Fish Club is what you're referring to, and it's the promise of a restaurant that will open in 2023 in New York, right? Like they basically said, hey, we're going to make this private supper club. And if you've gone to like Soho House or the Battery or any of those clubs like that, you know the general model where you pay a yearly fee and you get access to their venue or whatever else they provide, right? And the private clubs usually are like $5K a year or something like that. And you pay that every year. And you get access to their facilities. And if they have locations in other parts of the world, you get access to those too. So imagine if instead of paying $5K a year for your membership, you just bought an NFT So one-time fee, and you now own that membership. And if you're done with that membership, normally at another private club, you would just be like, oh, please cancel my membership, I'm done now. And then you would stop paying your $5,000 a year. Instead, now you own this membership. So as the club becomes more popular and the demand to get into that club goes up, you now have a very valuable membership pass, and you can just sell that to the next person who wants to get in, right? Instead of it being like you have no ownership over this nebulous thing that is your membership in a club, you own the membership. There's a very public record of you owning the membership, and you can sell that to the next person who wants to get in. So Fly Fish Club, and this is actually a really great example for restaurants as well. A lot of times restaurants, when they have this idea, they want to build this space, they go, they talk to a bunch of investors, they give up equity to get the capital they need to build this. Fly Fish Club, totally different experience, right? They said, hey, if you want to be a member of this club, buy this NFT. They raised $14 million. They sold out in public sale in nine minutes, and they sold less than 3,000 NFTs for this experience. And the club is not even open, right? So now they have the capital, they have $14 million to go and make this club really awesome. And they've said it'll open sometime in 2023, but essentially what people have done is paid in advance for the promise of this thing opening later. It kind of totally changes the way you can think about raising the funds for a project that you have an active community who's interested in making something happen. Like, you can activate that community and get them to help support whatever project you want to come to life without it being a situation where you have to meet with these investors and then strike a deal with each individual one and then give up equity in your project. We're seeing people use NFTs to fund a variety of different activities, not just membership clubs, but also nonprofit social impact causes.
I actually really like Tiffany's question for the current conversation. So she asked, like, is your recommendation to hold NFTs? Why would someone sell it? I was gifted one. I don't really get it. And I understand, like, just from the beginning, it's like, well, like, WTF, like, what is this? Why do some NFTs sell for like millions and millions of dollars? If you haven't looked at Bored Ape Yacht Club, like, or punks or crypto punks, like, it's just fascinating, that concept. But the way I view it is, it's like an asset, right? Like, it's worth noting that you hear these like extremely high prices that are so coveted, but also there's like what's called like a cash grab. There's also like a lot of projects out there that, you know, find someone on Fiverr to create a bunch of art, and they try to sell it and they try to hype it. In my Instagram inbox, I'm not sure if this applies to everyone, but I keep like getting like people trying to sell me these NFT projects. So just know that just because something is an NFT, it doesn't make it valuable. And it's just like, there's a lot of different things that make it inherently valuable. Like in some cases, it's because it's a great Discord community or because you get access to something, but it can really vary. And some people, they use it nearly like stocks in terms of like, hey, this has appreciated, I need to sell it. And that's why some people might want to sell it just to like cash out or liquidate, or because they have a certain thesis or they want to buy something else. But I'll let the expert weigh in more on this.
When you're looking at NFTs that you might be interested in buying, you want to look at what do you get for owning that NFT. A lot of these like really high profile projects, they actually give you, the owner, the commercial rights to use that image however you want, to publicize your own business, your activities, to print on merchandise and sell it, right? So instead of like, imagine you're a company and normally you would have to pay a designer to produce some sort of mascot for you, and then you'd have the rights to that, like do it as a work for hire. Now you can go on OpenSea, find a project that gives you the commercial rights and be like, oh, you know what, this like Bored Ape Yacht Club, for example, a lot of brands are considering this, and a lot of brands have already done this. They'll shop through Bored Ape Yacht Club, find an ape that they think represents their brand closely, they'll make an offer on it. And then, you know, the floor price on that's usually around 200, 300K. So now they have the commercial rights to something that's already had some brand equity built up in it, and they can do whatever they want, right? Like they can go print that in their products. They can have, I've seen people use their Bored Ape as a kind of like a, what do you call it? A spokesperson in movies, documentaries, commercials. There's a lot of people who are talking about doing that, or they'll put it in their own NFTs because you get the rights to do that. And rights to do things generally are pretty expensive if you're getting valuable IP. So in some ways, it's a little bit of a deal. I know like 200, 300K sounds expensive, but if you're a company and instead of having to pay for the usage rights for however long you plan on using whatever IP you want to license, you could just buy it outright for what would kind of be a reasonable fee, considering you can then have the right to do with this as you please.
In a bit, I'd like to transition in terms of like, how does someone get started? How do you even own crypto if you just want to own the currency and all of that? And just also, because there's a lot of scams out there. So just keep that in mind, maybe just like because obviously we can't cover everything today, but just like, what are the most important things and what do you need to know to not get in trouble? But before we do that, the one term that's thrown out a lot is like Web3, and we haven't really covered that. Could you briefly chime into that? That would be amazing.
Yeah, so Web3 is just a term that people use that basically encompasses this idea of giving ownership and giving power and control back to the people, as opposed to this Web2 model where all of our information is being aggregated by the tech powers that be, like Facebook and Google, and then being sold to other organizations, and we're the product, right? So we get ownership back over our identities, over the networks, over whatever it is, whatever technology we're using. That's like the kind of general idea of Web3 and how people use that term.
In terms of a lot of, or nearly everyone joining is a founder in some form. How does Web3, how could that impact their businesses or their websites?
Yeah, no, it's really fascinating. It's super exciting to watch like established organizations kind of grapple with this, because they're used to having control, right? You're used to having control over the details of your brand image, over the way your message is put out there in the world. And you kind of top down say like, here's the product we're putting out. And then people either buy it or they don't buy it, right? Now we're seeing this more collaborative model where customers are in some ways kind of part owners by either having bought into an NFT that gives them voting rights, or buying into a DAO, or, like they become it's almost like a co-op, I want to say, experience where the owner customers have more say in what actually gets done in an organization. And organizations who are trying to live this Web3 promise are not concentrating the power inside of their organization. They're finding ways to distribute it amongst the people who actually use their products, their customers. They're making their customers the decision makers.
And just because it directly ties into this as well, for those of us who run membership communities like Dreamers and Doers, could you see us transitioning our monthly memberships to something like NFTs? And it probably makes sense to talk about DAOs at this point.
I can definitely see a lot of membership communities transitioning over to NFTs. The concern that I've seen, like as I explained earlier with Fly Fish Club, if you're an exclusive membership community where you thoroughly vet the people that you let into the community, it gets a lot harder to control who is being let into the community if it's just a matter of selling an NFT. So I'm not sure, I haven't seen this solved for yet. Like I've seen a lot of private clubs offer up lifetime memberships to people at price points that would be, it's prohibitive to most other people. Like they're probably going to sell that pass once, and that person's not going to sell it to anyone else. But I'm not sure what someone who has a exclusive membership community where they're trying to control who actually gets in, like that would do if they're giving people their membership as an NFT, which can be sold on the open market.
Let's dive shortly into how to get started, and maybe you can share a few words on like what a DAO is, just because it comes up so much in crypto and in context to communities.
Yeah, decentralized autonomous organization. So again, same idea with blockchain in general, where there's no one central authority, there's no one person in charge, that ownership and control and rights and voting power are distributed amongst the holders of, let's say it's a token, it's usually some sort of voting token. And the more of these you have, oftentimes the more the stronger your voice is when it comes to a particular vote. This has become a popular way for companies or organizations to structure what is being seen as like the future of companies and organizations, right? Like the power to the people model. It makes me a little nervous to set these up in the United States. Most of the times when I've seen people set up a DAO, they're doing this based out of a non-US location. It's a little kind of up in the air on how that will work out long term here in the States.
Thank you for sharing. And since we're still talking about the context or the use case of NFTs to our like real life, Lindsay was asking, seems like NFTs would be good for season tickets to sports games since those get traded all of the time. Same with the Pennsylvania liquor licenses for restaurants, taxi medallions too. Could you see that as an application for NFTs?
Those are perfect use cases for that. I think we're going to see even more major sporting events like the Super Bowl. They dropped NFTs. I think we're going to see more events like that use NFTs to access their experiences. And the other cool thing about that is now you have a token that says you were there, right? Like you got to experience, instead of like framing your ticket to the Super Bowl, you have it publicly available in your wallet.
And also, since we have a group of entrepreneurs, the question obviously comes up, how does one create an NFT? And if you are the NFT creator, do you financially benefit from the secondary sales if someone sells an NFT after the first purchase?
Yeah, so that's a really exciting thing for artists of all sorts, because you can decide what royalty you will receive on each additional sale of that NFT. So let's say you launch a collection of 10,000 cute birds, and then those all sell out. Now, the next time someone makes an offer on one of those birds or someone else buys one of those birds, all of those sales that are made that aren't directly from you, let's say you wrote into the contract that you get a 5% royalty fee, that's what you're going to get. You don't got to do anything else. It just automatically gets added to your wallet. It's kind of magic.
I love that you mentioned the word wallet, because I just remember my mind was blown, but just how do you even start? Like, okay, I want to own this NFT. Do I put this in the wallet that I have in the back of in my purse right now? What kind of wallet are you talking about?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. And then thank you for grounding me in the knowledge that not everyone is, like trading NFTs all day, every day. But yeah, so wallet is what we call a lot of these plugins that you can either add to your browser, or even they have like what they call cold storage that's not always connected to the internet. Like one of these things is a ledger where you can store your crypto. It's funny to think of it as storing it. I even think wallet's a weird term because nothing's really going in here. All it is there is a private key that you get if you create a wallet. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's a matter of clicks online. You just go to take MetaMask, for example, and you click add to my Chrome browser, and then you're going to get a series of words that you want to keep secret and also never forget, because that secret phrase, or seed phrase is what it's traditionally called, is what gets you access to have control over sending money, or sending money out of, or sending NFTs out of that particular address. And that's your unique wallet. Anyone can send, the seed phrase is your password to this unique wallet. And then you're going to get a string of random characters. That is your actual wallet that you can share publicly. And if you share publicly, keep in mind, everyone can see what you do. So once you tie your identity to a wallet address, just keep in mind, whatever you're holding in there, people are going to know that it's you. Whatever funds you're transferring in and out of there, people can look this up at any time. It's all publicly available.
And obviously sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And obviously this topic is like, definitely like research a little bit more on wallets on your own before you like dive fully in, because we can't fully cover this. But so yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you need a wallet to own or trade NFTs. But if you just wanted to purchase crypto, you actually don't need a wallet. You could just purchase it on an exchange. Is that?
That's correct. So if you use one of the major exchanges, and actually, so here, I have this like really short getting started with crypto page that I put together, mainly for folks in DD, where there's a couple links there to a variety of exchanges you can try out. My personal favorite being OKCoin, female CEO, she's awesome. And that you can buy cryptocurrency with your credit card. You can buy cryptocurrency by connecting your bank account. And then you don't have to think about any of these seed phrases or worry about your unique wallet address. Crypto will just sit in your exchange account. For people who are more paranoid, that's considered a no-no. You generally don't leave large amounts of money sitting in your exchange. If you're dealing with a lot of cryptocurrency, you usually want to move it into what is called cold storage, which is one of these devices that's not connected to the internet. And that requires what I call two-factor authentication. It's essentially what's happening here, where you have to manually press an approve button before any funds can be moved out of that wallet. So if you're just getting started, I know that sounds like a lot. And honestly, just playing with MetaMask a little bit will get you comfortable enough with it. And it's okay to hold some money in your MetaMask wallet, because you're going to want it to interact with different crypto platforms or with NFT marketplaces. If you're experimenting at all in the space, you're going to want a little bit of funds in a hot wallet, like the wallet that's connected to the internet.
And you need to own crypto in order to trade NFTs or purchase NFTs. Is that correct?
So it's interesting. You're asking that at a very fun time, because there are marketplaces that have just come out letting you buy NFTs with a credit card. And the way that they're doing this, some of these platforms, they actually won't even require you to set up your own wallet the way I just explained, where you get your seed phrase and then you get your unique wallet and you have to protect that seed phrase. They actually, and this kind of goes against the original promise of that people are excited about blockchain. They actually have a custodial wallet where the organization, is holding the wallet for you, which means you are not in control of your funds. You are not your own bank. Like you're kind of not fulfilling all of the promises of blockchain. But also, I don't necessarily think everyone's ready for that. So it's totally okay to use a custodial solution. And you can buy NFTs with your credit card. They'll get put in this custodial wallet. You don't have to worry about any of the traditional crypto experience if that's the route you want to go.
And I like this question because it helps make this more tangible and breaks this down as like something that someone could maybe do even today after this call. But what's the workflow from, like, how do you get from like the exchange to the ledger? How do you start?
Yeah, and it's actually funny to me as a user experience designer, where I look at this process and I'm like, this is unacceptable, right? Because I'll tell you, and then at some point your eyes are gonna glaze over. You're gonna be like, oh my god, what am I even doing, right? So you have to sign up for an exchange, right? And if you click on that link I dropped in the chat, there's a couple exchanges you can choose from. There's a bunch of referral links there. You sign up for an exchange. You have to get your identity verified by that exchange. Sometimes it takes around like 3 days. You have to upload your ID of some sort, passport, or maybe your driver's license. Oftentimes they'll have you take a picture of your face. And then once you're approved, then you can buy some crypto on the exchange. And then you pick the cryptocurrencies that you want to buy. So you theoretically would have done some research and will know what tokens you're interested in collecting. Oftentimes, if you're just getting the NFTs that have come out, in the last year or so, 2 years, you're probably getting Ethereum, because that's where most of these live right now. I see that changing in the future. I don't see that most NFTs not living on Ethereum changing. I just see more NFTs being dropped on different networks as the year goes on, because Ethereum, for any of you who have interacted with it, know that it costs a lot of money to buy anything. So, all right, so you got approved by the exchange, you bought some Ethereum. Now you're going to move that Ethereum into your hot wallet, most likely MetaMask, which means you would have had to install MetaMask on your browser or on your phone, and then transfer money out of your exchange into that wallet. And then you can go and connect your wallet to whatever site it was that you want to use that crypto on. So like, let's say it's OpenSea, for example, because that's the popular NFT marketplace right now. Then you can buy an NFT. and that's, so we got to that point. This is usually days later, right? If everything went well in the identity verification process with your exchange, then you buy that NFT and you're like, oh my goodness, I have a really expensive NFT, or I have an NFT that I think is going to go up in value. I want to put it somewhere safe. Then you would have bought a cold storage wallet. And you, after you set this up, I give yourself 30 minutes to set this up properly. Just like sit down, quiet space. You're going to have to write down like a 24 word seed phrase that you want to keep safe. And then you'll get an address for your cold wallet that you can move your NFT into. And this is why this whole process is crazy and needs better user experience design.
So now that we know, technically, in theory, know how to purchase an NFT, how does one determine how to purchase NFTs? How does one find out about new projects, new drops? How does one not get scammed?
Yeah, so this is tough. I mean, like I've even gotten calls from some of the folks in Doers who said like, oh, you know, I bought a knockoff project or I got scammed. And a lot of that, unfortunately, is from Discord, which is where most of the NFT projects like to have conversations. It's really easy for people to get scammed on Discord. You might sign up for Discord and then you'll get a message from like VFriends, Gary V, one of these like blue chip NFT projects. And they're saying like, hey, connect your wallet and you'll get a free NFT. And then people are like, oh, cool, I won. They frame it as like you're a winner. And unfortunately, a lot of people fall for that. So a lot of the Discords will say right out of the gate, when you join, you kind of like go down this checklist of things that you agree to. They flat out say, we will never DM you, we will never send you, no one from our team will direct message you or send you any links. And they oftentimes don't allow links in the general chat on Discord because they know a lot of people will drop fake links there and then steal NFTs, steal crypto. I personally wouldn't get into any project that I didn't know someone who was involved in the actual project, in creating the actual project, or unless it came from like a super reputable source. Like if Bored Apes puts out another project and it's like clearly a blue check mark on OpenSea, then I'd be like, okay, I feel comfortable about that. If VFriends puts out another project and it's clearly blue check mark and like it's a verified link in their Discord, okay, I feel good about that, right? Like I don't mess around with projects where I'm like, I don't know these people, especially if they're not doxed. I'm not touching any of that. I have to have known someone who's working on the project.
Thank you for sharing that. And I also just dropped in OpenSea as like the platform where I think most NFTs are purchased. And just to briefly explain the Discord part. So oftentimes when you then are on a profile, let's say on maybe Crypto Coven, which is like Awesome Witches or World of Women, to just name some more women-focused projects. If you go on that site, there will be a link to the Discord. So once you own one of their NFTs, nearly each of these projects has their own Discord. So this is where the scamming happens through the direct messages. So, and also I feel like the moment you do anything, like if you start like following certain accounts, that's when you will start to get targeted by like people like direct messaging you on the social media platforms, trying to tell you and hype up some project. So just be aware of that. The more you kind of start researching, the more you'll be on people's radars, and the more you might become like a risk to become a victim to one of these things.
I see the messages in the chat. Yeah, Vitalik also DM'd me saying, I want a bunch of Ethereum. And naturally, I'm like, great. This is exactly the sort of thing I'm talking about. Some people will read that and be like, oh my God, I won the Ethereum. Here's my wallet address. Like, how do I hop on a video call and show you how to get in here and receive my free NFTs or my free crypto or whatever. Yeah, if it sounds too good to be true, it's like 99% of the time too good to be true. It's a scam.
And also if it's true, like some of the scammers are getting really, really good. So like if it sounds like it could be true, it still might be a scam. Just be, really careful.
I've even had friends who drop projects where I'll get a message from their project and I'll be like, hey, mint your NFT now. And then I will text them. I'll be like, is this real? Is this you? And I don't do anything now unless I get human verification that it is in fact the thing that I want to click.
Thank you for sharing that. And to wrap our heads a little bit more around this very new all these new concepts. So we have things like Bored Ape Club or even World of Women, where you spend thousands, if not, I think some of them are even like millions CryptoPunks, like on projects. And then there's projects that cost nearly nothing. Like what makes this art piece so much more expensive than this other art piece? And it's not just about the art, but like why is one NFT project valued so much higher than another one? What are usually the drivers?
Yeah, and actually Nina in the group can speak to how art's valued, right? Like there's so much wrapped up in what makes us think something is valuable enough. Like sometimes it's the bragging rights, sometimes it's the provenance, like who owned that NFT before, right? Like the VFriends project that Gary Vee put out, they will sometimes give out VFriends that were direct from Gary, and that has like a level of prestige, and you can actually verifiably track that on blockchain now, because you can see like, okay, this was in fact held by Gary's wallet address, and then now I'm an owner of that. There's a level of higher perceived value there, right? And sometimes it's actually visually like what actually looks cool, what's a rarer trait. So for a lot of these really large projects like that Gisha was mentioning, like World of Women, Bored Ape Yacht Club, you know, some artist drew like 10 different eyes, 40 different lips or whatever, and then they get combined into a face. Some of those traits, they only put 5 of in the collection. So out of a 10,000 asset drop, maybe only 5 of the NFTs have that. Or some traits are really rare and only 1 NFT in the entire 10,000 asset collection will have that. So if you have one of those NFTs with an extremely rare trait, that also drives up the value.
One trend that's interesting, I think that's like so ego driven, but if you follow anyone, so Twitter is like a really, really active part for crypto. So it's oftentimes where more is disclosed, or like a good way to, if you find someone reputable like Jessica to follow, you can find out about projects, but also you'll see that nearly everyone uses an NFT as their profile picture, and that's the whole term of like PFP, profile picture. And I think they're like, oh, if you look at someone, you're like, oh, they have an ape, you know, like it's like just like the new Mercedes, basically. Instead of someone buying a Ferrari, they buy an ape and they put it up as their profile picture on Twitter, like quite literally.
Yeah, that's the new status symbol.
In terms of, so we have a little less than 10 minutes left. So any final questions you can put in the chat. And diving into a platform. So Tiffany was asking, can you launch an NFT but not have a Discord community?
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, I just did this because I don't freaking want to deal with any more Discords. Like I have way too many Discords. For whenever I'm hopping on any video call, I have to close the whole thing out because otherwise it'll just be pinging in the background. So I just dropped this collection on Stacks a couple of days ago, and I dropped the link in the chat. I personally send out the NFTs to people. You can't mint these. They have to be gifted to you. Nina's a collector here. And there's no Discord. I even had to put up a site because so many people started hitting me up and being like, when mint, like mint means when can I buy it, right? And I'm like, never, you can't mint this. And so the site just says you can't mint these, right? There's no Discord. I'm even going to put a little section on the site that says we have no Discord. If you want to ask when Lambo repeatedly, you're going to have to do it publicly on Twitter, right? You don't have to do it. It's just, if you want to have like, if you're trying to build a long-term community that you have control over and that you have direct messaging to, and that you can gate access to certain channels within that community based on their ownership of NFTs, Discord's a really great tool for that. You can also do this on Telegram, right? Like, it doesn't have to be Discord. Discord happens to be a really popular, useful tool for that. It also has great video capabilities and audio capabilities. So it was initially used by gamers for streaming, right? So it has a lot of great things. It's just also kind of a pain in the ass and is a big part of dropping a major NFT project. Community management in that Discord is going to be one of the most important roles or important things that you need to focus on if you are dropping an NFT project. But you don't have to do it, right? Like, I explicitly am not doing that.
Yeah, so from my experience, like whenever someone does have an NFT project and they have a community tied to it, they do, like, the default happens to be Discord for the reasons you mentioned, because like they have additional, not even in native, but like additional, I'm not sure if they call plugins, but that you can use to like automatically verify. So if you change ownerships, you would no longer have access to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love the no Discord. And then because hacking is so like, how careful do you have to be? Like if you shared, or if I shared like, hey, I own this specific NFT, like, does it mean I'm for sure gonna get scammed in the next 24 hours? Like, how careful do we need to be about talking about what we own and don't own? And everyone or like so many people share their PFP as their profile, so they are kind of like very publicly showing what they're owning. So how careful versus not careful do we need to be?
Yeah, initially, early on, I was actually very quiet about working in the crypto space and then working in NFTs. And then now, as it's become more mainstream, I'm like, fine, I'm totally doxxed. So if I'm working on a project or not, what NFTs I own, the wallet addresses that are publicly attached to my name, anyone can look in those and see what's going on there, right? Like there's a level of acceptance of lack of privacy, if you will, or extreme transparency that you want to accept if that's the route you want to go, right? But like there are people who are very private, and there are people who are anonymous in the space. Being anonymous is a lot of work. It's a lifestyle, right? So me, I'm like, there are other things I want to do. I'd rather just be like, yeah, okay, I'm an open book. You know what I'm doing. You can see my wallet addresses. I don't care. But it's up to you. Does it make you more of a target in some sense? Yeah, like people will know what you have, and if you have a very valuable asset, it's just like flashing money anywhere you go, right? Like it just makes you a bigger target than you would have been if you hadn't been showing off.
Also, because you dropped the word Lambo, I just dropped in a URL that there's a bunch of like words that are used within the NFT space. And Lambo, for example, means when are we going to get rich? And just like a bunch of things that if you are part of a crypto, you will hear them and become more and more familiar.
Yeah, there's a whole dictionary of terms that people use in Discord and on crypto Twitter that as you're in the space more, you'll get to know, and you'll be like, oh, this is all dumb stuff.
As we're wrapping this up, like now that a lot of us now have a baseline, like what are the best sources to continue educating ourselves and and to learn more and get involved?
Well, fortunately for everyone here, you're all in Dreamers Doers, and we have a crypto group, and we actually have private sessions that are exclusively for female entrepreneurs that we explicitly say are completely confidential. We don't talk about what is said in those sessions. So you can come there with like very open questions about what you're experiencing right then. Like we've had people talk about how they got scammed. We have people talk about like the investments they're considering. And that's like a great session to kind of bring whatever questions you have, because there are people in that group also who are actually building the tools in the space. Like we have founders of some NFT marketplaces in there. We have women who are managing major funds. It's a safe space, a very informative space. I highly recommend that you hop into those if you want to learn more about the crypto space in general, DeFi apps, and NFTs. You can also follow me on Twitter. I try my best to answer DMs, and if you're in DD, like I'll follow you right back. I try my best to go through the list and answer as many questions as I can. Sometimes like things just get crazy and I can't get to everything, but I do what I can. And then oftentimes, like if people drop a comment in the crypto channel on Dreamers Doers, I try to hop in there and answer. And I find that to be a really great spot to have questions, because then everyone can see publicly the answer to that question. So if they have the same question, they're getting their question answered as well.
Thank you so much for so generously sharing the hard-earned insights that you have gained over the years. I also shared the post, so if you want to so the way it works, like whenever a new event is planned, one of those small working groups, Jessica sends out a calendar invite. So if you want to be automatically added to those calendar invites, comment on that post. And she's also working on a Discord. I believe she still is, I'm not sure if you still are, for women. So that will be happening soon, and she'll be announcing that as well. And I think as someone who is not a DeFi degen like Jessica, I hope to be one day. But I think for me, my personal journey, just getting like involved, like setting up your wallet, then just making little milestones. Like you don't have to like the goal doesn't need to be owning like hundreds of NFTs, but like start owning your first NFT, own a little bit of crypto. And one thing I've learned too is like NFTs and the crypto can be very, very FOMO inducing. And I think it's good to kind of keep that in mind, because at least I'm trying to like engage in a space and have fun and learn without like constantly feeling FOMO that I'm missing out. So that was a good personal lesson.
I'm really glad you brought that up. I am like anti-FOMO, you know, like I just don't care. People can hit me up about like all sorts of exciting shit that they're doing. I'm like, cool story. I have like a million other things going on. I don't have time for this. So if it's anything that's like, you have to do this urgently, I'm like, well, then I'm not going to do it, right? Like if I don't have time to thoroughly look into something and then feel comfortable about it, I don't do it. I'm not a day trader. I'm not one of those people. I think that's a lifestyle I'm not interested in. The people I know who do it are extremely stressed all the time and they're staying up like 24 hours a day. Like, think about how you want to live. Is that how you want to live? I'm guessing for most of you, no. So it's okay. It's okay to approach the space in a slower, more comfortable manner that works for you. You don't have to FOMO into every project that you see come up. You'll be fine. As long as, at least the right person in a couple of projects, and just by nature of being in Dreamers, Doers, you do, then if you get into just a handful of good projects, you're going to be happy. Like you don't worry about the shit you missed out on. There's so much happening in this space and everyone here is so new. It's actually, I think, more important to me that you as someone here, as a female founder in Dreamers, Doers, that you're positioning yourself as an expert in the space, because you have the opportunity to do that right now. If you take the time to learn about crypto, about NFTs, and you position yourself as the person who understands it from that level, to who can talk to people like us, who look like us, then you will take over a niche market that is just growing by the minute. And I don't know if you've seen in the news recently, like the NFT projects that are women-led and women-focused, they're popping right now. Like, yeah, exactly. So just get in, just take a little bit of time, educate yourself so that you have enough knowledge to feel comfortable saying like, yes, I understand this space. I feel comfortable with it. Whatever industry I'm in, I can advise from the frame of that industry with knowledge on crypto or NFT space, and position yourself as the leader in that space.
What a way to end. Thank you so much. And one thing we could do too, maybe, is like share some reputable women-focused, women-led projects in this space, just so that you have a list to just start looking at and to consider with like different price ranges. Thank you so much. I'm already seeing the chat blow up with gratitude. Like, you are amazing. You have I would love that you shared how hard or how much you invested to gather this knowledge and how generously you're passing it along to all of us. We know you're so busy, so thank you for taking the time and sharing this all with us. Thank you so, so much. You're really changing the future for all of us. Thank you
for having me. You know, I love Dreamers, Doers. I love all you ladies here, and I will do everything within my power to help you out. So don't be a stranger. Always feel free to reach out, and I'll see you guys all on Dreamers, Doers chat.